Dhruv, can you please check with a couple of students? Just are they able to see the YouTube stream? From my side, it's all are good.
Have you
Yes,
started
sir.
the recording?
No, not yet. Recording not yet started, sir.
Okay.
Only
Uh, yes, sir. YouTube was started.
it's working, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good. No, not yet.
Not yet?
Yeah, I think Kanishkan says he can see the YouTube stream.
We are ready, sir, now.
We're ready? And recording also, have you started?
No, not.
We have 74 people attending.
I see quite a few people have joined from Binghamton too.
Okay.
From Luha and Ragad and Prathamesh. Probably Dr. Yong Wong is here. If you ever want, my colleague, the Dean of Engineering, would like to have a workshop on autonomous systems. That is Dr. Yong Wong's specialty.
Okay. Okay.
He leads our efforts in autonomous systems.
Uh-huh.
And he's really has a good crew of people working with him.
Okay.
He's doing also some projects for industry, sponsored by industry, but also projects for our president on campus.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, we will certainly look forward to a workshop here at Navrachana University also.
I also see Dr. Dehan Wan, who is works a lot in the area of data science, both in terms of brain imaging, and he is also working with the children with special needs. And we have a very good center on campus, and he collaborates a lot with them. And Dr. Dehan has also got projects with the New York Organ Donor Network and others on with use of for data science. And there are probably others from Binghamton that I'm not seeing. My colleague, Professor Mohammed Kasavne, is here too. That's very nice. So anyway, I will stop at this point.
Okay. So I'd like to welcome all your faculty colleagues as well.
Okay. A very warm welcome to everyone.
Dhruv, just a minute. Let me start recording.
Yes, sir.
Please.
Let's start the recording.
Go ahead, Dhruv.
Okay. A very warm welcome to everyone. I, Dhruv Gandhi, Head of Event and Cultural Committee, would like to welcome you all in the webinar titled Using Design Thinking to Solve Really Complex Real-World Problems. Design thinking is a convergence of people, business, technology that follows an innovative problem-solving framework used by thought-diverse teams to bring signature experiences to their customers and end users. Design thinking is a human-centered approach for creating a better future and has proven successful for decades. New technologies are changing our world at a rapid rate, resulting in a very complex human-system interactions. Design thinking has proven effective for solving very complex human-centered problems. There are many benefits of design thinking, and it is being widely adopted by leading product and service providers around the globe from both industry and academia. A few of its many benefits include: it can help your team surface unmet needs of the people for whom you are providing products and services. It is an excellent approach for solving complicated problems in a complex systems. It reduces the risk associated with launching new ideas in the way of products, process, and services. It generates solutions that are revolutionary, not just incremental. It helps organizations learn faster. Now, Navrachana University. Navratna University was established in 2009 with the intent to offer superior education that befits the high education standards of the Navrachana Education Society in Vadodara. The university has embarked on a new educational paradigm that lays simultaneous emphasis on disciplinary education, interdisciplinary education, professional education, and general education. Working in a close association with the industrial and academic experts, right from the curriculum development to students' projects, internship, and work placements, School of Business and Law at NUV offers several unique undergraduate and postgraduate programs in the field of management and law. Now, I request Mahima, head of PR committee, to introduce our pros, Dr. Nilay Yajnik, sir.
Greetings, everyone. Our provost, Dr. Nilay Yajnik, has done instrumentation engineering from BITS Pilani, MMS from the Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai, and PhD from the University of Mumbai. He has over 13 years of experience in the IT industry with companies such as Wipro Infotech, Digital HP, and Mastech. He also has around 27 years of teaching experience. He has mentored technology startups and serves on the advisory boards of several organizations. He has several years of academic leadership experience, including the position of Dean and Director of Leading Institutes in Mumbai. He was a professor and chairman of the Information Systems area at the Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, Mumbai. He has several publications to his credit at the national and international level. He is a corporate trainer and serves on the Digital Technology Committee and the Higher Education Committee of the IMC Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Mumbai. Sir is also currently taking a specialized course for the final year students, MBA, on design thinking. Sir, I would request you to enlighten us about the topic and say a few words.
Thank you. Firstly, on behalf of Navrachana University, let me welcome all my colleagues and friends at the Binghamton University, New York. Specifically, I wish to thank Dean Shrihari Krishnaswami, because of whom this entire event has happened. Dr. Srihari I know Dr. Srihari for the last 50 years, since the time we were in school together. And we've been communicating, and we reached out, and he reached out to me, and we got in touch, and we thought this is a wonderful opportunity to collaborate. So I'm very thankful to Dr. Srihari for initiating for this collaboration. And I'm sure this collaboration will go a long way in establishing the connection between our two universities. I'm also thankful to Professor Michael Testani, who is actually taking the session on design thinking today. And the aspect of design thinking is so interesting because it can be looked at from different perspectives. One can look at it from an architect's perspective, a designer's perspective, or even a management perspective. And that is what one finds. And as one reads and studies more and more, you will find applications across industries, across sectors as well. And the key element, the first aspect of design thinking is trying to understand the other's viewpoint, the customer's viewpoint, customer centricity, human centricity. And then, because many times what we think is a problem is not what the customer thinks is the problem, or the other side, what they think is the problem. And that is where the real issues start arising. So design thinking through various tools helps us to do that. And the philosophy of Navrachana University, as Dhruv had mentioned, is about interdisciplinariness, which is actually the heart of design thinking, because the ability to get people together from different streams and brainstorming on some ideas, listening to different perspectives and coming out with some kind of solutions is the core and the heart of design thinking. And this is the philosophy that we have here in our university as well. So I think it will work very well, this kind of collaboration. I'm looking forward to a lot of more initiatives and programs with the Thomas J. Watson School of Engineering and our university as well. especially in the areas of additive manufacturing and autonomous systems and other areas which Dr. Srihari feels would be worthwhile over here. So thank you once again, Dean Srihari Krishnaswami. Thank you, Professor Michael. Thanks to all the faculty colleagues of Binghamton University who have joined us. Thanks to all the students. I know it's very early in the morning for you in New York. Thanks so much for joining us. And thanks to all my faculty colleagues who have also joined in big numbers. All my students of my MBA class are also attending. So on a nice Sunday, on a nice evening today. So thank you all. And I look forward to listening to today's session, like all of you also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for always pushing us and giving us these opportunities. Now, to take the event forward, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Krishnaswami Srihari. Sir is SUNY Distinguished Professor and is the Dean of the Thomas J. Watson College of Engineering and Applied Science at Binghamton University since June 2009. In June 2015, Dr. Srihari was appointed as Executive Vice Provost for International Initiatives and the Chief Global Affairs Officer for Binghamton University. He served in this role until June 2020. In 1988, Dr. Srihari joined the faculty of the Watson College. Prior to his appointment as Dean, Dr. Srihari served the chair of the Department of System Science and Industrial Engineering. He has played a key role in creation of university-industry partnerships as director of the Watson Institute of Systems Excellence. Dr. Srihari earned his bachelor's degree with honors in production engineering from the University of Madras, India, and his master's and doctorate in industrial engineering and operation research from Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University. A prolific scientist, Dr. Srihari's research spans many diverse aspects of electronics packaging and electronics manufacturing. Over the past 19 years, he has also worked extensively in the health systems domain. Dr. Srihari has published over 490 technical papers in leading peer-reviewed journals and at conferences, and authored over 950 technical reports. He has directed and graduated over 170 MS graduate students and over 40 students at the PhD level. His research team includes over 85 graduate students, and he has secured over $50 million in external sponsorship. Dr. Srihari holds the academic rank of SUNY Distinguished Professor. He has also been recognized with the Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Scholarship and Creative Activities, State University of New York, the Michael Malone International Leadership Award from the APLU, the University Award for Excellence in International Education, and the Stock Technology Mentor of the Year Award. Dr. Srihari is a fellow of the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineer. Sir, we are very glad to have you and are looking forward to your sessions. So I would like to request you to say a few words and describe us, take us into the topic for today. Sir, over to you.
Mahima, thank you so much. It was very nice of you. That was a very gracious introduction. And thank you once again. I think what people at Binghamton will be most interested in knowing will be Provost Nilay Yajnik's email address, because I'm sure many of the students starting from Abhinay and onwards would want to know how I was in when we went to school together in Don Bosco. Abhinay, you can reach out to the provost. And I'm sure Tejas and others will be right behind you. But anyway, I have known, it is our pleasure to initiate this collaboration with the Navrachana University. Here at the State University of New York, at Binghamton, New York, or Binghamton University, our goal is to create a world-class institution that always serves, provides a quality education, world-class quality education to our principal customer, the student. We look at the student as both our customer and our product. So when we look at the rankings, something that is important for us, We are ranked about 32 in the nation as a university in the US News and World Ranking for state universities. When you look at 32, you might like say, okay, there are 31 ahead of you. But when you look at just the state of New York, there are over 64 campuses of SUNY. Then there are several CUNY campuses. Then if you look at the state of Texas, you have three systems, the Texas A&M system, the Texas Tech system, and the UT system, or the University of Texas system. And California has got two state systems. If you take all these three together, you're having 200 plus campuses, and there are 47 other states. So when we look at our campus and we say we are 32nd in the country, of course we want to move forward, but that's a very, very good place to be in. Among the 64 campuses in SUNY, there are 4 that are called university centers, Binghamton, Buffalo, Stony Brook, and Albany. And there are 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, master's granting institutions, very specific institutions like optometry and Fashion Institute of Technology and so on. But among the PhD granting institutions, we are the highest caliber. We are by far the highest quality. We are not the largest. Buffalo is the largest. I can also go through, for example, the Times Higher Education World Rankings. And for engineering, we are ranked 175 to 200 in the world. And considering there are tens of thousands of colleges in the world, that's not a bad ranking. We are, of course, trying to move forward. And when we look at computer science, we are 201 to 250. So our rankings, our standings are extremely good, and that's very important to us. Also, when we look at SUNY has got 3 important factors that all of us have to abide by. These are 3 tenets that are equally important. Anybody in the state of New York who wants to pursue education in any domain, it could be neuroscience, it could be civil engineering, it could be broadcasting, has to find a world-class program in SUNY. So anybody, second, access. Money should never be a concern. In the state of New York today, if your family income is less than $125,000, you can go to a SUNY school for free. I do not know what happened. All right. You can go to a SUNY school for free. Besides, so one is excellence, second is access, third is diversity. Diversity in all its forms is very important to us. So when we look at our campus, and I'll come, maybe Mike, we can go to the slide number 7 or 8, where what's in by the numbers. So when we look at the Watson College, here we are looking at about the faculty has grown significantly in the last 10 years. We are ranked very highly in the engineering school alone. Our graduate program is very robust, and we are growing. Our graduate program is over 12,000 students right now. In the next slide, you will see the SAT scores. Now, SAT scores are very important to us. When we look at the SAT scores in America, the quality of our incoming freshmen is usually between 5 to 10 in the country based upon SAT scores. And the folks who are ahead of us are usually Georgia Tech, Berkeley, University of Virginia, William and Mary, and then usually us. What makes this even more special for us is about 1/3, about 30% of our students are financially challenged. In other words, what we call Pell Grant eligible. About 20 to 25%, depending on the year, are going to college for the first time in their families, and a similar percentage doesn't speak English at home. So when we look at all this and the excellence of our students, it's like choosing between MD Anderson in Texas or the Mayo Clinic or the Cleveland Clinic or Mount Sinai for medical assistance. These folks that we get coming through our doors, whether graduate or undergraduate, are extremely, extremely good in quality. So, and if you look at the trend, I think the next slide for the growth over a period of time, I think we skipped one, you'll see how the SAT scores have grown over the last few years. And we do all this while adhering to diversity and adhering to our core motto of excellence, diversity, and access. We have a lot of research groups because we want to make sure that when I said our students are our customer and our product, he or she, whether they are freshmen or PhD students, first year students or doctoral students, when they go out into the market, they should be quote unquote saleable. Whatever we are helping them with, these are excellent students. Whatever we are helping them with has to be very, very good. So my product has to get sold in the market. And that's what we strive hard for. And those are research centers, these are quite a few of them, help us a lot. They serve as a catalyst for research, scholarship, and elevating the academic discourse on our campus. Very quickly, we work a lot with industry, and maybe we can just flip through the next two slides because our students, many of whom are online today, are sponsored by research, funded by industry, and that makes them extremely saleable. Can you go to the next slide? This one, for example, is a program that allows our students to work with small companies. Actually, Mike Testani heads up this effort also. And usually we work with companies of less than 25 people, always less than 100. Now, going to the next slide, here we see that our faculty are very well funded. They get career awards and so on. They do very, very well. Our faculty, we get about 150 excellent applications for every opportunity. And here, when we look at funding for students, that's very important to us. I came to America in September 1983 as a grad student. Like my vita says, I went to school and college in India, in Chennai. I was born and brought up in Chennai. I am from Tamil Nadu. And funding was very important to me. We have never forgotten that. And we always try to do the best we can for each and every student, each and every master's and PhD student. Do we succeed all the time? We don't. But that doesn't mean we stop trying. Can we go to the next slide? Our alumni, yeah, we can skip this one maybe. Our alumni, yeah, we can skip this one. Yeah, we can go one more. A few more, yeah. So we work a lot with our alumni. And here, this is a major source of strength for us. We have excellent alumni from all over the world, many of whom reside in India, who are doing very successfully, for example, in Mumbai or Pune or Chennai or Bangalore or in New Delhi and so on. And the next slide, if you look at, we are very proud of an international community. The Watson College alone is host to over 50 countries from a student perspective. We strongly believe in getting the best and brightest from everywhere to come to our campus. Even going back in Indian history, going back to places like Nalanda, the idea was to get scholars from all over the known world to come to the campus and enrich the educational discourse, provide more information, provide for vibrant conversations and discussions. And we can achieve that by getting scholars from all over the world to call Binghamton their home, and for us to go to scholars all over the world and learn from them. We believe in learning from everybody. We strongly believe that we do not have the monopoly on good ideas. We can learn from everyone. The next slide shows you some of our student teams. They're extremely competitive. They are the lifeblood of our institution. They are the folks who provide vibrancy to our campus. And without them, we would not have a campus. I could go on and on about Binghamton, but one stellar thing that I got to tell you is my colleague, Stan Whittingham, who was awarded the Nobel Prize last year for his sterling work in chemistry. He, along with a couple of others, invented the lithium-ion battery. All of us have phones. We talk about electric cars, we talked about autonomous vehicles, we talked about electric vehicles. India has a very aggressive plan to go electric. All of that would not be possible without lithium-ion batteries. And the founder of the lithium-ion battery, his office is less than a few hundred yards from where I'm sitting. an excellent, excellent person, a fantastic human being who's also a great scientist. Colleagues, thank you very much for this opportunity. And if you don't mind, I will turn it back to the MC of the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Srihari. Thank you.
Now I would like to request Jessica Chabra to introduce our guest speaker.
Greetings to everyone. I'm Jessica Chabra, the head of PR and Networking Committee from Navrachana University, School of Business and Law. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Dr. Michael V. Testani is the Director of the Continuing Process Education for the Thomas J. Watson School of Engineering and Applied Technology at Binghamton University. Mr. Testani has over 30 years of experience in industry working with teams to help them solve complex problems. He is also the Director of Industrial Outreach and Continuing Education for the Watson School at Binghamton University and is a certified design thinking facilitator. Dr. Michael is the Director of the Strategic Partnerships for Industrial Resurgence Program at Binghamton University. He is also the Director of the Watson College of Engineering's Distance Learning Programs. He has been the co-director and the Design Thinking and Innovation Center of Excellence, which was a collaboration between Binghamton University and Vishwakarma University in Pune, India. He is the adjunct professor at the Watson College's System Science and Industrial Engineering Department at Binghamton University. Dr. Michael is the Vice President of Executive Advisory Board for the Alliance for Manufacturing and Technology, a nonprofit organization for manufacturing execution partnerships. He has been the Technical Vice President from 2014 to 2017 for the Society of Engineering and Management Systems Board and for the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers. Prior to joining Binghamton University in 2018, Mr. Testani worked for 20 years with IBM Corporation, where he held a variety of positions, including business transformation consultant, learning consultant, engineering manager, product manager, and quality systems engineer. I would warmly like to welcome you, sir. Please share your knowledge and learnings with all of us.
Well, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here today. It's an honor and a privilege to be part of this inaugural event. So thank you so much for having me, Provost Nile and all the organizers of this event. Yeah, I couldn't be more delighted to be here today and really pleased to be talking to you about a topic that I'm very passionate about. And I see you all are as well. So I think there's great synergy here. And that topic is design thinking. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. Again, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. Yeah, and I look forward to going through this very interactive talk with you all. I'm sure you're all used to Zoom at this point in time. You don't need my tutorial on this, but please give me feedback throughout this webinar. I want to make this as interactive as we possibly can. So, use the nonverbal tools. I'll be giving you some shout outs throughout the webinar. So, please weigh in by way of chat as well. I'd love to hear from you as we go through, again, this interactive webinar. It is entitled, it's a new way of working, that is design thinking, right? That helps teams solve really big real world problems. And that's really the strength of design thinking. So throughout this webinar, at the completion of it, I'd like you all to be able to describe what are the foundational principles of design thinking. In fact, that's what I'll center most of the talk on. As I'm sure the design thinkers in the audience know, there's a lot of practices and methods in design thinking. But the best method is your design thinking mindset, right? So I want to start right with those mindsets and with those principles. And just as your school believes is an important value, is creative and critical thinking processes combined. So, and that's what design thinking does. I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll progress into innovation, right? And talk about how creative and critical thinking can bolster innovation. There's a design thinking process, as I'm sure many of you know. I'll share that process with you so you have a little better understanding of that, how it's being applied, and some of the breakthrough results that are being achieved by using design thinking. And here's the process here. You'll see many design thinking processes. I'm sure you've seen a number. This is the Stanford D School's design thinking process. It's empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And at our center, our joint center of design thinking and innovation at the Vishwakarma University, we've established our own process that is slightly different. I'll share that with you as well. But I will say that the principles and the mindsets are really the same right across all design thinking processes. And as the provost pointed out, there is a lot of synergy with design thinking and the values of your organization. So I was just checking out your website, and I was really excited to see, right, creativity and critical thinking as bedrock for education. I couldn't agree more. Holistic education through innovative programs, hands-on learning, experiential learning, which I very much appreciate. And out-of-the-box thinking, which is really, what design thinking is all about. So as the provost rightly said, design thinking is really the glue that, or the common language, if you will, that pulls, right, a diverse organization like your university, like Binghamton University. It's the glue that pulls our students together. So I'll just start with a high-level definition of what is design thinking. It certainly involves radical collaboration of thought-diverse teams. And these thought-diverse teams come together, follow our design thinking process to help them solve complex problems. Right, and in terms of thought-diverse teams, the more diverse, the better. So love seeing a diverse campus like yours, where you have a variety of different programs, so you can bring different perspectives, different backgrounds. I think the more diverse the perspectives, the better the solutions that we're able to co-create, right, based on the challenges that we're facing. And when I say co-create here, I'm not just talking about collaboration, right, across your problem-solving team or your design team. I'm talking about co-creating with the end users whose problem you're trying to solve. And design thinking is great at that and gives you a lot of techniques that really helps you empathize with those end users so you can come up with solutions that are meaningful to them. Great at solving complex, ambiguous problems. As we said in the introduction, the world is becoming more and more complex, right? Technology is becoming ubiquitous. Information is exploding at exponential rates. And we all have to deal with that, right? So when we face problems in these complex systems, design thinking is a great way to do that because it's about being curious. It's about doing some experimentations, taking safe risks, taking small risks, and learning fast from those risks. So we'll talk more about that, and learning from the end users, those who are using our products and services. It's really where we want to get our feedback from in terms of the products and services we're providing. So very much end user centric, client centric, customer centric approach. So I'll describe that approach as we move through the webinar. And as I said, of all the design thinking tools and practices, the most important is your design thinking mindset, right? You want to think creatively, of course, focus on human values, focus on what's important to people, and solve those problems, right, through our products or services. Design thinking is about, showing, not telling. So it's very much about thinking and learning with our hands, right, making prototypes, giving those to end users so that they can relate to those and give us meaningful feedback so we can improve, right, more thoughtfully, more meaningfully. And that's about embracing experimentation. We don't expect to have a perfect solution up front, and that is the design thinking process by design, right? We have a bias towards action where we want to experiment, we want to test things, we want to totally engage with end users so we can better understand their needs. There is a process for design thinking, as I said, and we always need to be mindful of where we're at with the process what is it that we're trying to accomplish? What outcomes are we trying to achieve? And that varies depending on where we are in the process, which, by the way, is not a linear process. It's very much recursive and iterative process. And finally, I want to talk about, one of the key mindsets that I'll start with, and that is radical collaboration. Because again, this is where the thought diversity comes into play. And if we could learn as a problem-solving team or design team to collaborate more effectively, more constructively, we're going to come up with better solutions. So it's really, in my mind, the collaboration is really the foundation of design thinking. So this is where it gets interactive. Please, in the chat, weigh in what you see in this picture, or type in what you see in this picture. Just type in what you see when you see it. So those in the Zoom session can do that. Those on YouTube probably aren't going to be able to do that, but play along. Shout them out on your end. There we go, man. Here we go. Now we're rolling. Yeah, good. Starting to get interactive. I love it. I see man playing guitar. I see two old people, old man, two guys, one playing a guitar, old couple, two old couples, old woman. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Old couple. What else do you see? Just call it out. Type it in. Type it in. We got several people on the call, so we probably don't want to use the mics. Let's use the chat. But call out what you see as you see it. Old lady, old man. Wonderful. Keep going. Keep going. I think I saw someone play. Oh, vessel in the center. Wonderful. Thank you. And I get different responses to that. Some people tell me, it's a chalice, it's a vessel. Some people say it's a light, right? This is maybe a light, and it's shining down between the two faces. Okay, it could be. And I like to ask folks, who sees the rabbit? Who can find the bunny rabbit in the picture? I'll give you a hint. Look towards the bottom of the picture. And the reason I bring this up is I probably, used this slide a dozen times until someone pointed out the bunny, right? So even I didn't see the bunny at first. But what's the point of this? Why am I starting this talk with this particular image? Anyone have any thoughts? Please type in the chat. What's the purpose of this? And what's this have to do, of course, with radical collaboration? That's it. Perspective. Different points of view. Exactly right. Exactly right. And, in a team setting, in a team environment, in a social setting, there are going to be multiple perspectives, multiple points of view that can coexist simultaneously. And that's important to realize and appreciate. And if you can realize that and appreciate it, it can become a strength. And you can leverage those different perspectives when you're coming up with creative solutions. So thank you. Thank you for playing along with that. So I want to back up a little bit and talk about the history of design thinking, because I think it's quite fascinating. And I know we have some architects on the call, and that's kind of where I see things starting with design thinking is what we call a solution-centric approach to problem solving. Where designers solve problems different than the way engineers solve problems. I'm an engineer by training. I'm Lean Six Sigma black belt. I'm taught to solve problems by getting to root causes, right? Which is, a very problem-centric, right? Root cause-centric approach to problem solving. It's great, it's effective, but there are different approaches. And what designers use to solve problems is called solution-centric, where they look at the problem space, they come up with many solutions, many possible solutions, and they work with end users to select the one that works best for them, right? So for example, if I'm designing a house, right? I'm just going to get the design parameters I need. What's the square footage? What's the budget? How much acreage do I have to work with? How many bedrooms and baths do you want? I get some design parameters up front, and then I'm going to share several designs, several prototypes with the end users to get their input. Why? Because I'm not going to live there. They are, right? So I really need their feedback, very much like, when we're solving other problems for people, I need their feedback, their perspective as what's going to work best for them. And I think that's where design thinking is really strong. And of course, back in the 80s, Peter Rowe from Harvard wrote the book, Design Thinking. That's where the term was first used. But I will say, what's brought design thinking into popularity? Why is it being used, to address social problems, human concerns? I give David Kelly a lot of credit. He is the co-founder of IDEO, which is a premier design consultancy, started out on the West Coast of the US, but now a global design consultancy. He's also the co-founder of the D School, the design school at Stanford, right now run by Hasse-Plattner Institute, HPI, which is a affiliate of SAP, right? So very big on user experience design and all that. So again, my hat is off to David Kelly. In fact, so much so, I'd like to start with a short video. I'd like you to hear from him directly, right? The co-founder of IDEO, a design consultancy, the co-founder of the D School. What does he think about creativity and innovation? So I'll play this short video, and I'd love to get your reaction to this, please.
For 30 years, David Kelly and his brother Tom have taken familiar products and made them better. Their design firm, IDEO, re-engineered everything from the computer mouse to television remote controls and even the classroom chair. Earlier this year, David Kelly spoke with us for 60 Minutes. If you follow David Kelly around IDEO, you can see how he has infused that thinking into the legendary Palo Alto firm he founded more than 20 years ago. Breakthrough ideas happen every day here. The key to unlocking creativity at IDEO may be their unorthodox approach to problem solving. They throw a bunch of people with different backgrounds together in a room. So you're in the business end?
Yep. My background's in software engineering.
Journalism.
Aerospace engineer.
Doctors, opera singers, and anthropologists, for example, and get them to brainstorm. You got to have a certain culture. You got to have collaboration. You got to have diversity. You got to have an anthropologist and a business person and an engineer and a computer scientist. All of those kinds of.
You got it. That's the hard part. Is the cultural thing of having a diverse group of people and having them be good at building on each other's ideas.
Now the brothers have put out a new book. It is called Creative Confidence: Unleashing the Creative Potential Within All of Us. David and Tom Kelly, welcome.
Thanks.
So what is creative confidence?
Well, it's really two things. It's the natural human ability to come up with breakthrough ideas combined with the courage to act on those ideas. Because when we did 100 interviews from the book, what we discovered is some people have the ideas, but they have fear of being judged. And so they just hold it all in. And then their idea disappears. And so it's the ability to come up with the ideas, but the courage.
And you both believe that everybody can be creative. I tell you, after looking at the book, I am thinking differently. You said everybody. I've never believed that.
Well, look at little kids in kindergarten.
Yes.
Everybody, they're making a picture of a chicken with 4 legs, and mom puts it up in the refrigerator and says, "Yay!" So we all have it in kindergarten, and somewhere along the line,
in 4th grade, you say.
I think it's about 4th grade. You opt out and think of yourself as not creative because you're kind of being judged by your peers, or a teacher tells you that's not a very good drawing or whatever, and it's just too bad. But the wonderful thing is we don't have to teach creativity by the time they get to me in college. It's just all they need is to kind of have a few small successes. So we kind of hold their hands and have a few small successes, and they say, "Oh my God, I am a creative person."
Yeah. Well, this is what's so fascinating. You two are brothers. You write in the book that you shared a bedroom for 14 years together. You said your brother David was always creative, even inventing a telephone for his girlfriend that only dialed his number. I love that. And Tom, you said that you were very traditional, but yet the two of you made a vow to work together because.
Right. Well, we kind of approached this work from different directions, but we've ended up working, like I said, almost 3 decades
that
together.
Work shouldn't feel like work. That's the thing that struck me about this book. You've never used the word work.
Right. Well, it is, it is fun. We know people who kind of drag themselves into work every day, but we think, you can think of it as a job or a career or a calling. And once it's a calling, it's just fun. It's intrinsically rewarding. I think, there's a group of people who don't necessarily have to work, and you still want to because
you love what you do, and it's passion.
I have young children, and I see this happen early on in schools. They say, "Oh, that child is very creative," and you get the assumption that people are born creative, and yet you do not believe that, as Gail mentioned earlier. But you also think you can teach and continue to foster creativity.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, somehow we have sort of creativity tied up with kind of talent, and it's really not the case. So, you don't really expect a person to sit down at the piano and play for the first time. Like that would be crazy. But we somehow somehow think that either you can draw or you can't draw. You know, like somehow drawing takes just as much practice as playing the piano does. And so you find your different ways. You may be a creative curator. You may be a creative person who, you know, figures things out in new ways and still can't draw, right? But so creativity needs to be defined as the ability to kind of come up with new ideas in kind of unique ways.
Right. You know creativity from Silicon Valley. Tell us about Steve Jobs' creativity, how he approached problems.
Well, Steve was wildly creative. It was kind of unbridled. I mean, imagine a kid telling Shakespeare he wasn't creative. Let's just think. I'm sure if anybody would have told Steve Jobs he wasn't creative, he'd have told, you know, he'd have ignored them, right? Yeah. And so, but Steve's creativity to me was about inspiring others, mostly. You know, he got the best out of me. He got the best out of every designer he ever did. But the other thing is, he did everything with intention. If you think about being creative, you just take all the little parts of a project, what that adds to, and then you say, how can I make this little piece, you know, extraordinary? How can I make this little piece extraordinary?
For someone who's listening to you, what is the first thing we should do if we think, I'm not creative? Yeah. I want to be creative.
Yeah, so get the book.
Other than that.
But the whole thing is getting in and building empathy for people. We find that we think this thing called bias towards action, where you jump right in. I mean, so many people spend time planning and think, I'm going to go. Instead, just jump in. If you're designing a new, you know, bicycle, go out, watch people ride bicycles. Talk to people who don't ride bicycles. Ride a bicycle yourself. Go to the stores. I mean, all of that, we call it empathy. You're having empathy for the people. If I'm trying to please a certain person, I really want to build empathy for them. And I think it's kind of an underserved area. We mostly look at technology or business and come up with those kind of ideas and then try to convince people that they might like it. It's much better, I believe, to go out and like really build empathy for people. What do they really want? What's meaningful to people is really where we go. If it's meaningful for people, then in some ways it's easier to go find technologies and business ideas that solve that particular problem.
Can I just read one of the recommendations on the back of the book that says, they describe a way of thinking that will change your professional and personal life? Charlie Rose. That's a pretty good recommendation.
We brought in the big guns for the blurb.
You bought in a B-52. Nicely done.
David and Tom Kelly, thanks so much.
All right, I'd love to get your reaction to that video. If you could, and type into the chat, you know, what takeaways did you get from that? What takeaways did you get from that video? Anything resonate with you? Again, let's make this interactive. I think this is a richer session if we can interact. So let me hear what was meaningful to you. What did you take away from that video? Anything? You heard a little bit about creativity. You heard a little bit about thought diverse teams. I personally like, right, when they talk about anthropologists, opera singers, or engineers coming together to solve problems, you know, that really resonates with me. I said, wow, that's really thought diverse. And I couldn't imagine, right? I could imagine the creative solutions you come up with. Anyone can be creative. Perfect. Thank you so much. And have courage to act on your ideas, right? You know, how many times have you been in a meeting or with a group, you had a great idea and you were reluctant to share it, right? You know, we can't have that, right? Everybody's ideas have value. The more ideas, the better. So in design thinking, it's quantity over quality, right? Get your ideas out there. Empathize, very good. Yeah, important value in design thinking, right? Is empathize with the end user, the people you're solving the problem for. And by the way, you don't have to be a designer, right, to apply design thinking. You just have to be solving a problem. Importance of collaboration. Wonderful. Thank you. Empathy to sell you. Yeah, you need to really appreciate, right, who your market is when we're talking about selling products or services, and empathize with that market. Don't judge, suspend judgment. I think that's a good design thinking value, right? It's, you know, make your collaborations a judgment-free zone, right? And build on one another's ideas. So we call it yes and thinking, right? Not yes, but it's yes and thinking, where we're building on one another's ideas. Very good. Buy the book. Yeah, they're plugging their book a little bit there. You can buy it if you want. It's up to you. Or you watch that video. You get some good takeaways from that. So really, my hat is off to David Kelly, because I think he's done a lot by way of IDEO and the D School to really bring design thinking in the mainstream and really show us how effective it can be at solving complex, right, people-centered problems. And he also says, I love his quote here. He says, we believe the next generation of innovators and leaders need to be great design thinkers. And I agree with him. And why is he saying this? There's an important reason why he's saying this, right? Because we are living in a very service-oriented world, moving into an experience-oriented world. Talk more about that in a moment, right? But technology is becoming ubiquitous, right? We all have mobile devices, smart devices, and they're becoming commonplace. In fact, it doesn't matter a whole lot whether you've got an iPhone or a Nokia, right? They're all, they all can do pretty much the same thing. So how do you differentiate yourself, right, as a product company or a service company? Through the experience that people are having with that product or service. So I think what David Kelly is saying here is quite poignant. In fact, I want to point to this book by Joseph Pine and James Gilmore. It's called The Experience Economy. So it is, the thought that we are moving past a service economy to an experience economy, right, as the progression of how our economies move, how our economies are progressing over time. So this is, really where loyalty is built, where you're building your brand loyalty, your customer loyalty. It's around the experiences people have with your products or services, not just the product itself, but what does it feel like? What does it feel like to hold the iPhone in your hand, to use the apps, right? It's that whole experience. How about when I need service, or, when I'm going to upgrade, are the service folks friendly, right? So that's where loyalty is built, around that whole experience. So just quickly, customer perceived value, very simple formula here, right? That says customer perceived value are all the benefits received minus the cost, which you paid for it, plus your time and plus your effort, which often isn't thought about in terms of cost, right, to the end user, right? But it's very important. And what are some costs? Of course, what you paid for the product, but, standing in long lines, unfriendly staff, how often does it need to be maintained, right? Is it good quality? Is it reliable? Is it easy to use? Is it user friendly? Do I enjoy, right, using this product or service, right? If not, then that's considered part of the cost, right, of using that product or service. Benefits, there are many. I won't read through all of them, but again, it's more than just, the tangible things that you can see with the product or service. What's the experience like? How easy is it to use? Is it even fun, in fact? What are the aesthetics? How does it look? Is it attractive? Is it comfortable? Are service people friendly, right? And are they nice to work with? That's all about the experience, right? So this is the progression that David Kelly is talking about in terms of the experienced economy, right? There's companies that are in commodity businesses where there's really no differentiation between your product and others, and then there's highly differentiated. And it's this experience that we create that can highly differentiate our products and services from others. So a commodity business, there's no real differentiation per se. So let's say, my product is pencils, right? You're going to buy a pencil, pretty much anywhere, unless you're looking for a specialty one or something like that. But then there's goods business, right? Where, we're selling tangible product. We're selling, laptop PCs or telephones, or something along those lines, where we do try to differentiate our product, have a USP, right, a unique selling proposition compared to our competitors. And then there's service businesses, right, where we don't have a product, but, like getting our car repaired or serviced, right, or healthcare, in many ways, service industries, right? So that's one progression. And then there's the experience business, right, where you're charged for the feeling. Or you can differentiate yourselves, another way to look at it, from the feeling, the experience that your end users have, your customers have by engaging with you. So let me ask a question by way of the chat. Where do you think a company like Apple falls here? From commodity to goods to services to experience? Where does an Apple company fall, do you think? We'll pause for a minute. We'll wait for some thoughts to come in the chat. Experience, some people are saying, yeah, I agree too. I think it's up here around experience, right? How does that iPhone feel in your hand? How does it look? When, that product first came out, it was, this may be before many of your time, but there were Blackberries that were handheld devices, and they were very popular and very nice. But when the iPhone came out, it was revolutionary, right? The full panel display, it felt great in your hand. You could touch just about every button with your thumb. So it was very well designed. And everything, seems like every feature and function was designed with intention. So yeah, and in fact, Apple's not limiting itself to just phones, right? Here's an example of a concept car of the future, right? And they see themselves in this space, and you could see Apple in this space as well, particularly right on the entertainment system that might be in this vehicle, right? So if it has to do with an end user experience, this is Apple's market domain, right? So they're not limiting themselves to just phones and computers and so forth, which I think is very neat. Okay, so I want to share another perspective why I think design thinking is becoming so important globally, right? Because I think there are some other important changes, taking place around the world. And that's this fourth industrial revolution that we're currently living with. And I assume you all know what the first three were, right? The steam-powered engines that could mechanize things that were done historically by humans, and then the industrial revolution where electricity would run machines and mass production, and then computers with the digital and computer transformation. But now we're living in a fourth industrial revolution. If you asked me what that meant a couple of years ago, I would have said it's all about artificial intelligence and data transformation and all that. And I would have been partially right, but I would have missed a lot. And I like the World Economic Forum definition of the fourth industrial revolution here, because I think it really hits on it. It says the fourth industrial revolution is the convergence of physical, digital, and biological systems. So it's bringing technology, it's bringing data, it's bringing electromechanical systems and people together in ways that haven't been done before. And what does this have to do with design thinking? Well, if you're bringing these different disciplines together, right, it means collaboration across disciplines. It means electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, working with clinicians, working with psychologists, working with anthropologists, right? So it really means collaboration, right, across disciplines. And I think that's the age we're living with, and I think that's going to advance. And you've all seen examples of these things, right? Where cobots, where we train robots to work side by side with us, right? I think is an example of where collaboration is needed, right? Industrial engineers, mechanical engineers, working with psychologists, sociologists, how is this going to play out in the workplace? I'm sure you've all seen electromechanical exoskeletons. They've given paraplegics the hope for mobility, right? So this is engineers, working with business people, right? Working with doctors and clinicians, prosthetic replacement limbs that in some ways are better than the original, additive manufacturing, 3D printing that's being used as implantable devices for both hard and soft tissue. So a lot of examples, right, of how technology and the human beings are interacting in ways they haven't before, which means there's a need to collaborate, to use methods like design thinking to solve the problems we're facing in these domains. Right, I'm sure you're all aware of NASCOM, right? All these future technologies, what I call disruptive technologies that are going to change the way we work. All of us work, someday, and we're seeing that already, right? So there's AI, there's the Internet of Things, there's VR and AR, big data, additive manufacturing, like we said, right? And these are very important for our future. And these technologies cannot be implemented in organizations without strong collaboration, which is where I think, design thinking comes in. Yeah, in fact, look at the NASCOM future roles here, right, across these digital skill sets of the future. And you'll see design thinking, right, in many of these roles, right, whether it's a web designer, a user experience designer, UX design, uses design thinking. Here's a service design thinker, right, in this domain, and so forth and so on. So the point here is that design thinking is becoming more and more mainstream and more crucial to pull these groups together so that collaboration can be effective. And back to the World Economic Forum, right? Here's their future skills list. And look at the top three, 2020. Look at the top three: complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity, right? And that is really design thinking in a nutshell, right? It's a methodology, it's a way of thinking, a way of working, that combines critical thinking, creative thinking to solve complex problems. So design thinking hits on those three, right? And it is very much this creative and critical thinking process combined, right? So it's very much right brain, left brain thinking that comes together. So I like it for that reason, because it's whole person thinking. right? And we use this all the time when we problem solve. If some folks could mute, I'm just hearing some background. If y'all don't mind muting, if you're not speaking. Thank you so much. Yeah, so this is really about divergent and convergent thinking. Perhaps you've heard those terms, and we use this all the time when we problem solve. For example, all right, my car won't start this morning. How am I going to get to work on time so we can do this webinar on time, right? Well, there could be several ways. So that's the focus question. How do I get to work on time? My car doesn't start. There's a problem I'm trying to solve. Could be many ways to do that. Call an Uber, get my wife to take me, take a bike, et cetera, et cetera. But then I start to converge. Right? I start to look at, my success criteria and say, okay, there's certainly cost considerations, there are timeliness considerations, et cetera, et cetera. Then I converge on an answer, right? And this is the problem solving approach. And this is what design thinking, really leverages, right? It's this out of the box thinking. This starts with divergent thinking, right? We want to be as creative as possible and then use our criteria, use our multiple prototypes that we're making in design thinking to converge on a final solution. Right, and Linus Pauling said it here, right? Linus Pauling, one of the great scientists of all time. I hold him up there, with Einstein, and he says the best way to have a good idea is to have a lot of good ideas, right? So brainstorming or divergent thinking, right, is the key to kind of getting outside the box and finding a solution that's going to be that breakthrough solution that's really meaningful to your end users and customers. I just share this with you from Alex Osborne. And this goes back to the 40s and 50s, right, where he shared his rules for brainstorming. And I share these because I think they're important, because I think they really do help to create a safe environment where you don't fear your ideas are being judged, right? Like we talked about earlier with creative confidence. So you do defer judgment. You do have fun and encourage, creative ideas to come out, and you respect everybody's input. Another thing that I like about design thinking, a lot of times we card storm, right? We gather ideas on Post-its, right? Or in a virtual Post-it area, because we're doing that because we want to honor everybody's ideas. They all have value, right? So, I think of the parable of the 6 blind monks, right? In terms of the importance of collaborating and sharing ideas, sharing perspectives. Right, because you remember this parable. Everybody sees the elephant a little differently, right? This person thinks that the elephant looks like a rope. This person thinks the elephant looks like a sphere. This one a snake, so forth and so on. If they would just collaborate, share information, they'd all have a full view, right, of what the elephant actually looks like. So design thinking, it's whole brain, right? It's left brain, right brain. It's critical thinking, creative thinking, but it's also whole team thinking too, right? We need to have that mind share, right, across collaborators to get our best solution. So I want to talk a bit about innovation. I like this definition of innovation. You'll see many of them out there. This one resonates with me in particular because it says it's combining seemingly unrelated ways of doing things, right, to create new processes and solutions. So it's that combination that others might not have thought of, and making connections that others might not have thought of. That is innovation, right? And I think we can make those connections when we mind share, right? We collaborate across our teams. You might say something that makes a connection with me that I wouldn't have made on my own, right? So here's some examples of innovations. Here's an ODON device, right? This is used in place of forceps during the delivery process, Velcro, which I'm sure everyone's heard of, and Ford motor assembly line, which was, breakthrough at the time in terms of, right, mass production. Can anyone tell me by way of the chat, where any of these, just type ODON, here's where that originated, or Velcro, here's where that originated. By way of the chat, where do you think some of these ideas originated from? Any ideas? I'll give it a moment. These have been around for a while, so their origins might not be obvious. But yeah, here's where they originated. Right, the obstetrician that designed the ODON device or helped design it was a wine connoisseur. So there's this compression wine bottle opener that he used that gave him the idea for the ODON device. Velcro were these cockleburrs that a European hiker saw sticking to his dog, gave him the idea for Velcro, which is now used widely across the garment industry as well as other industries. And Ford got the idea for his assembly line from Chicago meatpacking plants, right? So making a connection to other things that others haven't made. right, to come up with breakthrough ideas. All right, so I just wanted to share some thoughts and ideas around innovation. I like Tim Brown's definition of design innovation. So Tim Brown is the CEO of IDEO, right? That's the Tom Kelly company, right? And he says design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit. And by the way, if we're solving a problem, we're all designers, right? Designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success, right? And I really like this definition. I think he's right on. And here's what he's saying, right? Design innovation is this intersection. You have to be designing something, or your solution to your problem has to be desirable, usable by people. It has to be technically feasible, right? It can't be something like, hey, we should colonize, Mars to limit global warming, right? Great idea. I just can't do that today. I would say though, always push the boundaries of technology, right? We would have thought commercial space flight was impossible, but guess what? Elon Musk is proving us wrong, right? So I think our breakthrough ideas do come when we push technology, and it has to be business viable, right? We have to be able to make money on it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but we have to have a business plan that makes us money. And this requires collaboration. So this is co-creating with end users. This is our design team working with technologists, make sure we're bringing the right technology to bear, and working with business people, marketers, accountants, finance people, to make sure we have a business plan for business success. Otherwise, the product's not going to sustain, right? If it can't ultimately make money. And here's an example of that. So here's IDEO collaborating with Bank of America. If you've heard of the Keep the Change program, just type in the chat yes, or give me a green check. Yes, I've heard of it. But this was, Bank of America and IDEO observing human behavior, right? And what's a human behavior? If you're paying cash for something, I might go buy something at the corner store, and I'll pay $5 or X number of Indian rupees, and they'll give me change. They'll give me coins. What do I do with those coins? I'll put them in a jar. I'll save them up for a year, and then I'll go cash them in. Well, IDEO and Bank of America saw this behavior, and they came up with the Keep the Change program, which was really a very successful and breakthrough program, right? Out of the box thinking, where what they're doing is now they're doing the same thing with your debit card, right? So you're not paying cash, but they'll basically round up to the nearest dollar, and they'll give you the change, right? So you'll round up from $4.50 to $5 and put the 50 cents from your checking account on your debit card into your savings account. So, and this is solving a big problem for people, and that many people don't feel they're saving enough for retirement. They don't feel they have a nest egg, or even if emergencies come up. So it's kind of solving that human need as well, and dealing with that, human experience and emotion. But look at the business success they saw from this, right? Over 12 million new customers participated in the program, and those customers saved over $2 billion at the time this was reported, right? So this is just a few years after implementation. So wildly successful, again, making a connection of human behavior to a business opportunity. Okay, I want to come back to the mindset, because there's a couple of other key mindsets I want to touch on before we wrap up. And those mindsets are curiosity and reframing. I think they're very important for a design thinker to, one, be very curious, and to be able to reframe a problem from the perspective of the end user. So you need to ask a lot of questions when you're first facing a problem, because we make a lot of assumptions, right? And we want to get past those assumptions. We want to be sure, right, we've got it right when we go to solve these problems. So I like starting a design thinking problem with a 50 and 15 approach, which is challenge your team, your problem solving team, to ask yourself 50 questions that need to be answered, and give yourself 15 minutes. You'll be very surprised how many questions, real valid questions, you can come up with in 15 minutes that you don't have the answer to. So, really your problem solving should start with, what I call secondary research or discovery, right? Trying to understand your problem space better, right, before you go down the solution path. And I'm going to give you an illustration of this, right? An illustration of reframing a problem, right? Here was a design team that set out to redesign an ice cream scooper, right? And you've probably seen these, you might even use these, but what's the problem you have with ice cream scooping? When the ice cream's hard, it's really hard to scoop it out, right? So this design team set out, they were going to heat up the head of the ice cream scooper. So what many people do is run it under hot water, or they have a cup of hot water that they dip the scooper. It makes it easier to scoop the ice cream. So true story, design team set out to redesign this, and they were thinking, well, maybe we can put batteries in the handle, and heat this up, right, through some, resistance heating or, right, some kind of induction, something like that to heat it up. So they set down this path, and like a good design team, they actually started observing end users, and they noticed something. They observed something in watching the behaviors of these end users that nobody told them during interviews. So it was only through direct observation that they picked up on this. But they saw just about everyone, before they finished scooping the ice cream, did one thing before they put the ice cream scooper in the sink to clean it. Can anyone tell me what that was? What you think that was, by way of chat? If you can guess, what's the one thing that just about everyone did to that ice cream scooper before they put it in the sink to wash it? And what they did, I'll give you a moment to respond. But what they did is they licked it. They would lick it. They didn't put it back in the ice cream, but they put it in the sink and then cleaned it. So that's the team that the design team, that's the problem that the design team saw. They said, no, we're not going to heat this thing up. People are already solving that with, hot water or whatever. We're going to make it easier to lick. So this was their breakthrough design. They made it look more like a spatula, right? Why? So that it could be easier to lick for end users. So I think a simple example of how reframing is so important in problem solving. And Einstein had it, right? He said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem, 5 minutes thinking about the solution, right? So understanding the problem in design thinking, understanding it from an end user perspective before we set about solving it. I'll give you another reframing example. So, let's say we're a design team or problem solving team. We're working for an elevator company. Right, we're working for Otis, Otis Elevators, and we're commissioned by a hotel. They got a lot of people standing, waiting for elevators, and getting a lot of complaints. So what are they hearing? They're hearing the elevator's too slow. So what should we do? Well, as technologists, we can come up with a technology-centric solution and say upgrade to a newer model, change the motor. There's an algorithm that selects what floor to go to. Let's change the algorithm. Right, but there's a people-centric approach that we can get to by reframing and saying, what's the real problem we're trying to solve? The real problem is the wait's annoying, right? So we don't necessarily have to focus on the technology, the elevator itself. We can focus on the experience and just make the wait more enjoyable. And I'm sure you could think of a number of ways to do that, but those ways are radically different, right, than focusing on the technology, right? And that's really the point of design thinking. It's human-centric. More than it is technology-centric or product-centric, right? And we understand how to reframe by direct immersion, right? Observing, shadowing, trying things ourselves so we can experience what end users are experiencing. So it really is about empathizing with end users and experiencing what they're experiencing, right? Total immersion, right, with the end user experience. And I'll give you another example. There was a design team or problem-solving team working for a pharmaceutical company. And they were interviewing an 85-year-old woman. She had severe rheumatoid arthritis. And they wanted to know, right, if they could make her prescription bottle easier to open for her and others, right, who are elderly. And they asked, during an interview, do you have problems opening your medication? And she said, no, I have no problems opening my medication. So how could this be? Well, like a good design team, they took direct observation, right? Instead of just interviewing, they said, show me how you open your prescription bottle. And this is what she showed them, right? So why isn't she having a problem opening her prescriptions? Well, she happens to have a meat slicer in her kitchen. It's opening the bottle. So again, underscoring the importance of direct observation when problem solving, right? And that brings us to a how might we statement. So this is the define phase, right? Many problem solving approaches start with define. They start with the problem. In design thinking, this comes like, 2 or 3 phases in where we come up with our how might we statement, right? So we have a collective problem that we all agree, a collective point of view as a problem solving team. This is what we're trying to solve, right? So I'll give you an example. It says, and they tend to follow the same format. So how might we do what? Take some action. So in this case, we're going to redesign. So let's say this is a learning management system for continuing education or for a university. How might we redesign the course finding experience? This is the what, this is the capability that our end users are looking for. Who is this for? Who are our end users or our key stakeholders? Our students. So how do we redesign the course finding registration experience for our students and why? What's the impact? What's the wow? What's the outcome that we're looking for? We want to reduce their confusion and frustration. We want to save them time. Okay, that's the benefit. That's a good how might we statement. We can set down the path to solve this. And there are many potential solution paths, which is great because now we can use divergent and convergent thinking to come up with a solution that's meaningful to those end users. So I want to start to wrap up, but I want to share one final video with you that I think really encapsulates design thinking in practice. And this is an example of an actual designer, right? His name is Doug Dietz. He worked for GE. I'm sure you've all heard of General Electric. And this is an example of how he used design thinking, empathizing with end users, right, to change the experience for those end users. So I will play this video for you, and then we will wrap this up. So you'll hear from GE designer Doug Dietz.
Hi, I'm Doug Dietz. I'm the principal designer for global design at GE Healthcare, and I'm the lead designer for Adventure Series. The Adventure Series is really an activity that we've been working on to see what can we do around our diagnostic imaging equipment to make it friendlier for both the family and for young patients. We have large diagnostic imaging equipment at GE Healthcare. They're huge, and some of them make noises. Adventure Series is really looking at it really from the child's perspective, looking at where their anxiety points are and coming up with some really nice solutions that help those, whether those are visually taking over the room or an adventure or something, as well as music that leads them into the room and coloring all the anxiety points.
He's had some really chronic congestion and coughing, so we're going to have a look and see what's going on in there. And the pirate room was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. The room was painted completely like a pirate setup, including the floor. The floor was like the dock with the water on the sides, and animals and things on the walls. And the CT scanner itself was like the wheel of a pirate ship. It's for a child, it can be kind of scary. You see things that make noise and they look very institutional, and this is, you're not even really thinking about the fact that you're doing a procedure. Very, very welcoming, very whimsical and fun.
Distraction starts out with a few items to try to catch the child's attention. But you need more than that. You have to have the buy-in from the staff, the physicians, from the nurses, the technologists, and even the families, so that when they come here and they see what we've done and how we've decorated the rooms, they feel as if they really are on an adventure. And they feel when they're having their scan, there's no need to be panicked or afraid. So that when they get up out of the scan and they leave, they're walking out that door with a positive feeling.
We really started rough with our ideas, and behind me you'll see some of the sketches that we came up with, just pencil and pen, getting our ideas down. And we thought from the beginning what a powerful thing it would be to have a cross-functional team that allowed us to look at this from many different filters. We brought in child life specialists. We worked with Fern Schupeck, director of the Children's Museum here in Milwaukee.
We're thrilled that GE approached us. We serve, 200,000 children and adults every year. I think they felt that they really could, be driven, their project could be driven in part by the expertise that we could offer in terms of how to meet the needs of children and families. As an adult who's gone through scary medical testing, I know it's just tremendous anxiety. The difference with children is that, our ability as adults to explain to them what they can expect. Children are creatures of habit. They really rely on their senses to understand their world. As an adult, I walk into a hospital and I say, oh, I hate that hospital smell. For a child, it's why doesn't it smell like my pajamas? Why doesn't it smell like my mom? Why doesn't it smell like our kitchen? This is the essence of the childhood experience. We need to be more focused on the needs of children and families, whether it is in the context of medical procedure or early childhood development as a foundation for doing better in school. So, and this is another area where I think the message that we're carrying as a community, and I mean that in of a global sense. As a community, we always need to be pushing the envelope in terms of what we can do to meet the needs of children and families and make their experience richer, more rewarding if we want better outcomes.
Why I really wrapped myself around this and tried my best to pull in some of the best people that I could to work with me is that I always kept in my mind that frightened child that was going through cancer or that was really having some problems going through their scan. And that is such a tough thing for a little one. It's such a tough thing for a family. And I did put my heart and soul behind it. And it means a lot to me now that we have a solution and that the solution is helping the way it is. And it's helping these families. And what a great thing to work for a huge company like GE, but show some passion like this, that we can do something for people.
So that's imagination at work. So that is certainly empathetic design. And this follows, I really like this example. Certainly you feel the designer's empathy there for his end user, but it really follows the design thinking process to a T. So I think it's a great illustration of that. So in fact, discover, right? Design starts with inspiration, right? Good design starts with a good inspiration. And you know what Doug's inspiration was when he visited Pittsburgh's Children's Hospital, right? Like a good designer, you want to see his product in the field, want to see how it was working. He was crushed to find out that 80% of the children using his CT scanners required sedation. 80%, right? I mean, it's not safe. It's not cost effective. It's not time. It's not a good use of time, right? It's time to the process. So a lot of, bad things associated with that. So that was his discovery. That was his motivation. Certainly he empathized, not just with the children, his end users, but with parents, with staff, right? So all key stakeholders, right? Empathized with all them, worked with them to come up with a point of view, a collective point of view based on all his inputs, right? His discovery, his research, primary, secondary research. And he actually reframed. When he first started to solve this problem, he said, I got to redesign my equipment. My gosh, 80% of these children are afraid of it. I got to make it smaller. I got to make it quieter. And then his aha moment, right, in doing his research, came when he said, no, I don't really have to change the equipment. I have to change the experience that my end users are having with the equipment. So that was his aha moment, right? And then he came up with several ideas, right? You saw, you saw the pirate ship theme, there's a space theme, there's an underwater theme, right? And he prototyped those. And in design thinking, the prototypes are very simple, very fast, right? We make fast to learn fast. So he would just use cardboard cutouts, put them over the front, like you put the ship steering wheel over the mouth of the CT scanner and get feedback from end users, and started to progress, right? So, and you're going through this iterative refinement process where you test a prototype, you get some feedback, you refine that prototype. So you're prototyping, evaluating, refining. You're going through that cycle many times. In fact, you could cycle back right all the way to the beginning. Doug didn't have to do that. Continue to make refinements, right? And now they've got a series of these, which not only is helping the child, that's the main motivation, but it's also a nice business for GE as well. And you'll be glad to know that the sedation rate went from around 80% down to around 2%, right? Almost eliminated it just by changing the end user experience, right? So I think just a perfect illustration of design thinking. So in closing, it's important to remember, right? The end user experience is not about the product, right? It's about, our experience by using the product, right? So with that, I will close this talk and we'll open the floor for some Q&A. Any questions? Questions from the audience, please. We have a few minutes, I believe. I'm happy to take some questions, listen to comments.
Mahima, could you kindly moderate the Q&A session? Any questions? Students, faculty, colleagues, anyone?
Oh yeah, I see a hand up.
Okay. No, maybe you can unmute whoever raises the hand.
Still muted. I'm not able to hear the question.
Just a moment. Dhruv.
Yeah, yes, sir.
If there are any questions, if people have raised their hands, please unmute them.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, this is Firdaus Solanki. I wanted to ask a question about similarity between this process and Six Sigma DM DAV. So are they very much similar? They also follow the same kind of process as define, measure, analyze, and then design and verify. Is it very similar or the approach is different?
Yeah, it's a great question. That question comes up a lot. So thank you for asking that. I mean, both methods follow a methodology, a framework. Those frameworks look similar, right? But I would say, the Lean Six Sigma process or the Design for Six Sigma process, it's very reliant on data. I think that's one difference. Whereas, the design thinking process, often use it because we don't have data. We don't have data that we can trust. So now we're experimenting with solutions based on the true needs of the end user. And I think that's, the one thing that design thinking does that, other problem solving approaches doesn't do as well is really empathize. It gives you tools to empathize with end users. Like, for example, we use empathy maps, journey maps, scenario maps to, really experience what the end user is experiencing. So I use it in conjunction with those other approaches, right? I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I like to bring in, design thinking practices into Lean Six Sigma, Design for Six Sigma, and vice versa. So I think they're very, very synergistic because design thinking is great at requirements gathering around end user needs. Great. Thank you for that question.
Okay. My name is BK Basu. I want to have a question. Before that, I want to tell you, I have a very great memory of Binghamton. I went to that place 30 years back where my niece was having her graduation. So
wonderful.
I thought that maybe there would be another chance. So today I got you. So my question is very simple. Now, the way you presented is a fantastic presentation. Really, the thing that you have told, it has widened our mind, our imagination. It's a wide and wild imagination that is what is provoked. And I'm sure that at Navrachana University will be also looking after this particular project, this particular subject in a much wider way. My question is, in the US, this is still a part of a course or rather a program. It is a course, or there are UG or PG programs are available on design thinking.
Yeah, great question, BK. Thank you for that. And, we'd love to see you back on the campus. So, post-COVID, when we get a chance to travel, please come back and visit us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'd love to have you. Thank you for that question. And yeah, design thinking is spreading really across industry, across academia. It is becoming, we're incorporating it more and more here within programs. We have courses that we have developed and are developing, like the future graduate level courses. So yeah, it's really expanding greatly across the U.S., right, across academia, and you'll find a lot of it too, not for credit. So you find a lot of not for credit programs as well as for credit programs through academia.
Okay.
Great question.
Okay, and one more question, please, if you allow me. I just saw that there is some collaboration probably you are having with Vishwakarma University, that is probably a Pune University in Maharashtra. What
correct.
kind of a collaboration, if you can a little bit give us an idea?
Yeah, well, there we have a center. It's a joint center for design thinking and innovation, right? So there we're, we started with capacity building, of course, so training faculty and students in the design thinking practices. They are incorporating that now into their curriculum. In fact, every first year student goes through what I call a one week design thinking boot camp, right, where they're indoctrinated into the mindsets and practices of design thinking. But we're also collaborating with industry. We're collaborating with non-industry. We're trying to make societal impacts with design thinking. So there's a lot of outreach that's taking place as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions, BK.
Thank you.
And welcome back to our campus virtually. Any other questions?
Yes, I'm Satish, and like I want to like kind of look what I want to look into the page of keys of design thinking. I want to take a screenshot of it, and while we are doing that, can you touch upon the mindsets of design thinking, like the craft clarity and the be mindful of process? These 2 points are like I have not understood them perfectly.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you. I'm glad you.
Could you kindly
Go ahead,
identify
Provost.
yourself, Satish?
Sorry.
Could you kindly identify yourself?
I'm Satish Verma, fourth year of computer science in Navrachana University.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so great question. So I'll jump back to the process to answer the one of them, right, which is be mindful of the process. So, here's the process. So where are we in the process and what is it? I look at it as outcomes, right? What are the outcomes we're trying to achieve? It's important. And, I use the same approach. Someone asked about Lean Six Sigma. I use the same approach with Lean Six Sigma, where there's critical questions you're trying to get answered, right, through each of these phases. In discovery, the critical question is, well, what's the problem we're trying to solve? And do we think we can be successful at solving it? Right. And there's a lot that goes underneath that, right? Who else has tried to solve it? What approaches have they taken? How successful were they? So, good. A lot of good secondary research, maybe market analysis takes place in Discover. So, you need to, have I done the research, right? Do I understand it well enough? Have I immersed myself through direct observation of end users? Do I have a good point of view? Do we all agree as a problem-solving team? What's the problem? Do we have the how might we statement that we can all agree upon? Right. So it's important to understand, where we are. And it's important to know too, it's not a linear process. It looks linear here, right? I can draw many recursive loops, right? Back from prototyping to, maybe we need to empathize with more end users, right? Maybe we just, we didn't have the problem, well defined. So that's on the be mindful of the process. The crafting clarity start is, we kind of talk about, design thinking, we talk about this cone of uncertainty, right? We're early on when we're in Discover. In fact, you can kind of see it, the cone here as a backdrop, right? It's, this blue backdrop is very wide. When we're first starting to solve a problem, there's a lot of uncertainty, right? We don't really understand yet the problem we're trying to solve because, we're just getting into it. So that crafting clarity is about, getting to define, truly understanding a problem. And a lot of times solutions are conceptual, right? We have these concepts, we have these ideas. That's the way our creative brain works. So we want to make sure we can take those concepts into something tangible, right? Which is what we're doing in the prototyping phase, right? So we see where we're, we got the double diamond process going on here, right? Where we're converging, seeking clarity, and then diverging and converging again, right? Around our prototyping and evaluating. So, we do that around the problem we're trying to solve. We diverge, converge till we can define a problem. And we do that around solutions. We diverge many possible. Let's converge on a few prototypes and let's evaluate those in terms of how effective they are to solve the problem. So great questions. Thank you for those questions.
And one last thing, can you go back to the page of keys of design principles? I want to take the screenshot of that page. It had some good points.
Oh yes, and by the way, I will make through the provost, we'll make this information available. So we'll send out a PDF version of this, so you'll all have this.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Great questions.
Any more
other questions?
Yeah, hello, sir. So actually we are talking about design thinking, right? So sometimes it might happen that whenever we are communicating with our team, so it might happen that they will think that the person who is talking about this whole design thinking perspective, they might think it as they are deviating from the main concept. So how to present the design thinking part in a better manner or in a proper manner? So sorry, I forgot my introduction. My name is Juvanan Kotecha and I am currently in third year of CSE in Navrachana University.
CSE computer science.
Yes, thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you for the question. And if you don't mind, could you just repeat the question? I'm not sure I understood the question.
Actually, how to present this whole design thinking point of view in front of the team while explaining or rephrasing the whole concept in front of them in a proper manner?
Yeah, well, and that's, I kind of mentioned the collaboration that we have, and certainly the coursework that we have and are, continuing to build here. It's all around teaching people the process. Because it really does start with getting everybody in the same boat, right? Thinking the same way. And I won't teach a practice. There's dozens of design thinking practices, right? There's practices in each of these phases that we can teach people to do, but I won't do any of that until we all buy into the mindsets, right? We all value collaboration. We're all working together to create a safe environment, right? So that we're not afraid to, collaborate or, put our ideas out there. So that, that's kind of the foundation. So, really, the answer to your question is really not an easy one. And it takes an investment, right, of time and education. In some cases, right, we have to change the way, if we want to change the way people behave, we have to change the way they think, right? And, the way we're behaving is not a bad thing, right? So I'm not being critical at all. We just want to change behaviors. We have to change the way people think. That starts with education.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Great question. Thanks so much. All right. I'm happy to take more questions. I know we've run a little bit over on time, but
there is one question from the participant. So the question is from Mr. Subramaniam, and he's asking that design thinking is innovative process for both designing and problem solving to create user experience. So what he wants to ask is why organizations are facing challenge in adopting design thinking, and what's limiting them to use this great methodology?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I spent, of my 20 years at IBM. So yes, Subu, is it Subu from Otis? Is that Subu? Wonderful. Oh, thank you for this question, Subu. So you're experiencing this real time, right? I lived this in a past life as well, right? Where, you're trying to change behaviors, right? As you're trying to make transformation within an organization, you're trying to change, in some cases 30 years, right? Folks like myself, right? 30 years ways of doing things. So there really is a big change management aspect to this, right? Where, and I always look at the distribution curve, right? Of, you're going to have your early adopters, embrace those, pull those with you early, right? And kind of get that coalition, the coalition for change. You're going to have people who are just averse to it, right? On the other side of the distribution curve, who are just averse to change, right? It threatens them. It changes plans they had. A lot of reasons why people oppose change. And then you have the people in the middle that could be swayed either way, right? So you got to get those early adopters, get those early wins, right? And then pull those masses over to you. But certainly, transformation, adopting change, it takes time. It takes time, maybe a culture change, right? I know, one of the things I saw in a past life is we talk about failing fast. Well, like many of, those in the working world, our mantra is failure's not an option. Well, okay, we've got a culture then that says, it's not safe to fail. We've got to change that culture. In fact, what we did in the early days is we said, okay, we're not going to use the word fail. We're just saying we're going to learn fast, right? Through prototyping and experimentation. Because we're losing leaders, right? So it's a slow process, but again, I think it starts with education, and it starts with because again, if you're going to change behaviors, you got to change the way people think, and there's certainly some cultural underpinnings there as well that take time to move the needle on culture. Great, thank you, Subu. Great question. Thank you for participating in this. Appreciate all your time.
Sir, are there any other questions? No? Okay, so sir, I would like to extend a very warm thank you from all of us. Your session was full of insights. Even though we all were on mute, it was very interactive session on the chat box because we all were hooked onto it. And it really helped us a lot with your examples and the videos especially. So we were very pleased to have you, sir. I'm sure we can apply all these learnings in our practical life. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with us.
This is my pleasure. Thank you so much. And I look forward to our future collaborations. So thank you for everyone for attending. Have a wonderful evening.
Yes, sir. It has been a wonderful session, and thank you so much for everyone for taking out their time. So I would like to thank our Provost, Dr. Yajnik, for organizing such events every time and giving us the opportunity to come across and interact with people from across the world. He always pushes us to imply and think out of the box. And all our faculty who has attended this and contributed in their own way, and especially to all the participants. I see many people from your university, our university, everyone's come across and made this a very interactive session. Thank you so much everyone for being a part of this, and I look forward to we all look forward to such sessions in the future. Also our faculty member Dr. Mr. Dinesh Panchal, who just made this so smooth, the whole session, the Zoom meeting on this online platform and also on YouTube for everyone to access it later on. And such valuable, knowledgeable sessions are always appreciated from us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Professor Michael, for spending so much of your valuable time with us. It was a fantastic session on design thinking, and the cases you gave, the examples you gave were so interesting, covering so many different sectors, different areas. Thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to this collaboration as we extend it further in several other areas, including collaborative research. I wish to thank Dean Dr. Shrihari Krishnaswami as well for inaugurating today's session. And thanks to all your students and faculty colleagues who have joined us today. And thanks to all, thanks to Mr. Subramaniam, who's joining us live from Prague. He's the director of Otis. And thank you so much for joining us today and for your question. Thanks to all the students as well, plus the faculty of Navrachana University who made this happen. I'd request, if possible, can we have a group photograph? Mahima, maybe you can just take a group photograph, and if people can just, activate their camera, their videos, it'll be nice.
Yes, sir, they can.
Yeah. Mike, we'll just have a group photograph of everybody. Okay. Just unmute Mike.
Yeah, I think it's available now for everyone to unmute, and also on the videos. I would like everyone to, switch on their videos for 1 minute so that we can take a group photograph. Yeah. Vasundhara, could you take the screenshot, please?
Provost Nile, thank you so much for organizing this. This is my pleasure. Wonderful to meet you all.
Thank you, and welcome to Navrachana University. Welcome to India. And when things improve, we hope to see you physically in our university.
I would love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for extending that.
Okay, so we all are ready? Bruce?
Yes, Mahima.
Okay, so on the count of 3, we can all smile together.
Yes, I'm taking.
Okay, cool. You also switch on your video, Vasundhara. Okay, 1, 2, 3, everyone. Yay. Done?
Done?
Is it done, Dhruv?
Yes.
Yes,
yes, sir. Done.
Okay, thank you so much. And Professor Michael, have a great day. And
you as well. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Well,
Good night, everyone.
Bye now.
Bye, everyone. Good day.